One of the things you need to do with linear functions is to be able to compare key features of two functions given in two different ways. I can see here that we have a problem about fruit companies. We have Lambert's fruit and there's a table. We have fancy fruit and there's an equation. Now we're going to read the context. Trish wants to order a fruit basket to send to her mother who lives out of state. She found two companies that make fruit baskets, Lambert's Fruit and Fancy Fruit. Lambert's Fruit charges by the pound for their fruit baskets, as shown in the table. Fancy Fruit makes baskets of different weights and ships them to customers. The company charges a flat fee for packaging the baskets and then charges by the pound. The total cost in dollars of a fruit basket weighing X pounds is represented in the equation shown. All right, so what I want to do, because the first question asked me for the rate of change at each business, Fancy Fruit is fairly obvious because it's nice that the equation was given us in the form of y equals mx plus b, m being my slope. So Fancy Fruit, the rate of change is 5, in other words, $5 per pound of fruit. Lambert's fruit, on the other hand, my x is increasing by 1, but my y, what am I increasing by? Well, it would be $7 if this was just 6 to 13, but it's 6.50 to 13, so I'm increasing by 6.50 in the y. So remember, change in y over change in x is my rate of change. So 6.50 over x is 6.50 or 6.5. So I've answered question number 1. Now to interpret that, what do those rates of change mean in the context of the problem? Remember, we're talking about fruit, and so Lambert's fruit charges $6.50 per pound, whereas Fancy Fruit charges less per pound, $5 per pound. And so you might be wondering, well, why would one fruit store charge less than another? I don't know, is the quality not as good? Is it not as fresh? Is it, enticing customers to buy more fruit? Okay, so those are things to think about when it comes to business. And then it says, what's the initial value or the y-intercept of Lambert's and Fancy Fruit? Okay, so for Lambert's, what I want to do is I want to go back in time and I want to say, go backwards. For 0 pounds of fruit, now I'm going to go backwards and subtract 650 minus 650. It would cost $0. So my initial value at Lambert's Fruit is $0. Fancy Fruit, on the other hand, my y-intercept is where x equals 0. So oddly enough, my y-intercept at Fancy Fruit costs $12. So there's a flat fee that Fancy Fruit is charging, which maybe I have to describe in this next question. Yeah. What does the initial value represent? That Lambert's has no flat fee. So while they do charge more per pound, it doesn't cost anything at the initial point of sale. Whereas Fancy Fruit has a flat fee of $12 per pound. Now, which business should Trish contact to make a 3-pound fruit basket for her mother? All right, so let's think about that. Lambert's or Fancy Fruit? Well, Fancy Fruit, we're going to use the equation that's given. Equation being, plus 12, I believe that was it. So 15 plus 12 equals $27, whereas Lambert's would charge $6.50 times 3. So that's 13 plus 650 more, that's 1950. So she ought to contact Lambert's if all she wants is the 3